Hi guys, I'm going to do a short video on a simple single pilot solution to your DJI S900 using the A2 controller with the Z15 GH4 camera. Now first of all, we're going to just go through the basics of this software, well not the basics but the more important things. I notice a lot of people aren't doing the IMU location accurately, so I'm just going to explain why this differs to a lot of other ones I've seen on YouTube tutorials. Now the IMU location which is -10, the IMU has a set spot where you have to put it, recommended by DJI, and it sits around here on your S900. That's the x-axis. Anything green is negative. So we've got -10 centimeters or thereabouts, which it's sitting around there. Now the center of gravity, which most people miss, without a battery and a camera and a gimbal, the center of gravity is pretty much the bottom plate on the S900. Now as soon as you put a battery, in my case I'm using a 16,000 milliamp battery, and I've got the gimbal and camera on, the center of gravity now drops till about here, and I'll show you that in a demonstration later. So therefore, if the center of gravity is here, the IMU is still sitting at that level on the base plate, so therefore it's in the green, so it's around -7 for an accurate position. Also, I've got the GPS is dead center in the middle, and mine's -30. I've got a pretty long rod on it, so that might differ to what size pole you've got your compass sitting on. Now another really important thing to do is make sure you don't have your gimbal on using the Z15 GH4. If you do switch it on, it'll completely interfere with the settings and the mapping and the calibration, which it just simply won't work properly. Now if we go into mapping and calibration, I'll just turn everything on. Now as you can see here, I've set my mode switch to this switch here, which is very easy to assign. Now that's D4. The D4, D3, D2 and D1 correlate directly to the A2 receiver, F4, F3, F2, F1. So if you're going to map something to D4, make sure you've connected the servo cable to F4 on the receiver unit, or it won't work. My other functions, I've got tilt, which is on the RD dial, and I've got 2 position switch, which DJI recommends for the shutter. Now D3, the shutter, is connected to F3, and the D2 is connected to the F2. For it to work properly, you have to do those connections properly. Now I'm going to show you it in action. Now the 2 modes, you do have full pitch manual control, and you can see on the screen of the GH4 it's running out of batteries. That's one thing, but it's got a little eye sensor here, so if it blocks with something, it'll turn off and go into the actual eye lens, the display. Also DJI recommends to take off the rubber eyepiece as well, because it can get in the way. To take a photo, simple as that. It is pretty instant. I've heard it can take up to 2-3 seconds, but not in this case. Same deal with the video. That's in movie setting. Just flick it on and off and you have video and it's recording. Should be very straightforward if you get the wiring correct. And to stop, same function. Okay, plugging in to the GCU. And back to the computer. And power has to be on for this one. Okay, you can see the functions. We've got tilt, which goes all the way. You've got reset, H3 and H trace, and that's with the SD switch. And then you've got shutter. And when you assign these channels, make sure these are in the middle, which you do through the endpoints through your transmitter. Same with this, when you've set up the shutter, these will be all the way here and will be there. Make sure you do endpoint adjustment and reduce it down so you get nice in the middle. As long as it's lighting up red, it's going to function, but in the middle is just nicer. Now to show you these ports. Now to show you this port setup. Now F4 goes to the 4th channel, which is mode. So that's D4. Then you've got F3 that goes to the shutter, which is reserved. And you've got F2, which is to the tilt. As long as you follow them, you shouldn't have a problem. You can't change it. You can use roll, you can use pan. I don't know why you'd need to, because you can turn your drone. I think tilt's the best one to use for single operator. You have got 3 different functions, so you can use whatever function you'd like. Okay, to find the center of gravity, simply pick it up by these arms first. Use 2 fingers if you can, and feel the weight out. And that feels perfect, it's nice and perfectly balanced. Again, these ones, and it should be dead straight and perfectly balanced. Again, and that's fine. Now we know that it's dead in the middle of those axes. Now to find the most important center of gravity is where the balance weighs, where the actual COG is. I hold on these 2 sides and you can get a good feel of where the balance point is, which is about there. So it's about the bottom of the A2 controller. Again, flick it around, be careful, you don't want to drop it. You can feel it again on that axis. It's just under the LED where my LED light is, if you can see through my hand. Now, that's the COG where you should be measuring from where the compass sits and the IMU. So if the center of gravity's not on this bottom plate anymore. It's roughly around here, and the IMU is up from that centre of gravity, which puts it into the negative. And just get a ruler or a tape measure and just work out how many centimetres that is and put it into negative. And that's how you get your accurate centre of gravity for your IMU. And for your compass, it's down here. That's about 30 centimetres. So it's in the negative 30 because it's higher than the centre of gravity. Now the only other things I recommend that you must do is take off this rubber eyepiece. Make sure your cords are neatly tucked so they're not hitting anything as it's doing the calibration. A very important thing is this lens holder here. If that's not tight enough, you will get vibration, heavy vibration through the motors. Also, I've found when you get the GH gimbal from factory or from a company, make sure you update it. The first thing you have to do is update it. I'm updated to 1.8 and it's fixed a lot of the bugs in the system that weren't letting me actually take the photos and the video. I hope this has been informative for you, and I hope it's answered a few questions if you've been stuck in those situations.